London, a name that resonates through the annals of time. A city of contradictions, where the ultra-modern skyline meets centuries-old cobblestone streets, where nearly every culture on Earth finds a place to call home. With nearly 9 million residents and over 300 languages spoken within its boundaries, London is arguably the most multicultural city in the world. But this didn't happen overnight. The city's staggering diversity is not just a modern phenomenon. It is the culmination of 2,000 years of conquest, ambition, resilience, and rebirth. From its origin as a modest Roman outpost to its rise as the heart of a global empire, London's journey is nothing short of epic. So how did this sprawling metropolis, once little more than a speck on a foreign map, become what many now call the capital city of the world? Let's travel back, way back. Chapter 1: Londinium Rises. The story begins nearly 2 millennia ago. In the year 43 AD, the Roman Empire, at the peak of its military might, turned its sights toward the misty island of Britannia. Led by Emperor Claudius, the Roman legions marched across the English Channel, not just seeking conquest, but permanence. Among the first orders of business, establishing a strategic foothold on the River Thames, a narrow, fordable crossing point. Here they founded a new settlement. They called it Londinium. Unlike many ancient towns that grew organically over time, Londinium was methodically planned. Wide, straight roads crisscrossed the settlement. At its heart stood a Roman forum, basilica, and bathhouses, reflecting the grandeur of Roman urban planning. The location wasn't accidental either. This spot gave the Romans access to the river for trade and military control, while also connecting to the expansive Roman road network. But Londinium's early days were far from peaceful. Only 17 years after its founding, in 60 AD, rebellion ignited. The legendary Queen Boudica, a fierce Celtic warrior queen of the Iceni tribe, led an uprising against Roman oppression. Her army razed Roman settlements across southeastern Britannia, including Camulodunum, modern-day Colchester, Verulamium, St. Albans, and Londinium itself. The young city was burned to ash. However, the Romans were nothing if not determined. In the aftermath of Boudica's defeat, Londinium was rebuilt, this time stronger. Stone replaced timber. Grand structures rose again. At its zenith in the 2nd century, Londinium boasted over 60,000 inhabitants, making it the largest Roman city north of the Alps. A massive wall, known today as the London Wall, was constructed between 190 and 225 AD, encircling the city and offering protection from external threats. This wall, with its 7 gates, Ludgate, Newgate, Aldersgate, Cripplegate, Bishopsgate, Aldgate, and later Moorgate, would define London's boundaries for more than 1,000 years. But even the strongest walls couldn't withstand the collapse of an empire. By 410 AD, the Roman Empire was crumbling. Facing threats from within and beyond, the last Roman legions were recalled from Britain. Londinium, once a beacon of Roman civilization, was left to fade into obscurity. Abandoned buildings fell into ruin. The bustling trade networks dissolved. The city's heartbeat slowed, and for a while it stopped altogether. Chapter 2: Saxons and Saints. In the vacuum left by the Romans, waves of Anglo-Saxons swept across the land. Germanic tribes from what is now northern Germany and Denmark brought with them new languages, cultures, and beliefs. Curiously, these settlers chose not to inhabit the ruins of Londinium. Instead, they established a new settlement just to the west, calling it Lundenwic, in the area we now know as Covent Garden. For a time, Roman London lay in eerie silence, overgrown and forgotten. But by the 7th century, Lundenwic had flourished. With a growing population and a thriving port, it emerged as an important trading hub. In the year 604 AD, St. Paul's Cathedral was founded by Bishop Mellitus, marking the return of Christianity to the region. This early church helped guide the Anglo-Saxons from paganism to faith, ushering in a new spiritual identity for the city. Yet peace rarely lasted long in medieval Britain. The 9th century saw a new terror arrive on English shores: the Vikings. These seafaring Norse raiders, hungry for wealth and fame, began targeting monastic settlements across the British Isles. London, with its growing riches and strategic location, became an inevitable target. In the 830s, Viking raids struck London repeatedly. By 871, the Great Heathen Army, a formidable coalition of Norse warriors, occupied the city, likely camping within the ancient Roman walls. The fate of London once again hung in the balance. But in 886, the tide turned. King Alfred the Great, one of England's most revered monarchs, recaptured the city and ordered a bold transformation. The Saxon settlement of Londonwick was abandoned, and the population moved back into the fortified Roman city. The walls were reinforced, a bridge was rebuilt across the Thames. The city's name was formalized as Lundenburg, and from this rebirth, the foundation of modern London was laid. Chapter 3: From Kings to Conquerors. As London grew in size and influence, it faced brutal Viking raids, but remained resilient. Under King Edward the Confessor, landmarks like Westminster Abbey and a new St. Paul's Cathedral signaled its rising importance. In 1066, everything changed. After Edward's death, Harold Godwinson took the throne, but Duke William of Normandy, claiming it was promised to him, invaded and won at the Battle of Hastings. On Christmas Day, William was crowned in Westminster Abbey. To secure control, the Normans built castles, including the mighty Tower of London, soon rebuilt in stone as a symbol of royal power. Though Winchester was still the capital, a fire and shifting politics pushed authority toward London. By 1097, Westminster Hall was built, laying the foundation for what would become the heart of English government. Chapter 4: Medieval Might and Misery. By the 12th century, London had become England's unofficial capital, a growing center of trade and power. But the Middle Ages were harsh, a time of struggle, survival, and sweeping change. Monarchs saw London as a financial asset, granting charters in exchange for loyalty and loans. In 1135, citizens gained the right to elect their own officials, early signs of self-governance. In 1209, the first stone London Bridge opened, lined with shops and homes. It was a city in itself. By 1215, London backed rebel barons against King John, helping force the Magna Carta and win key civic freedoms. Life, however, was far from secure. Overcrowded streets, filth, fires, and disease plagued the city. Then came the Black Death in 1348, killing over half the population in mere months. Yet out of tragedy came change. Labor shortages empowered workers and weakened feudalism. In 1381, the Peasants' Revolt shook London, demanding justice and reform. Though crushed, the revolt proved one thing: the people of London would no longer be silent. Chapter 5: The Tutors transform the city. The end of the 15th century brought a new dynasty, the Tutors. After years of civil war, Henry VII's rise in 1485 marked the return of stability. Under Tudor rule, London grew into a cultural and economic giant. Henry VIII's break from the Catholic Church reshaped the city. As monasteries were dissolved, their vast lands shifted from religious to merchant hands, fueling a booming middle class. Trade surged. Powerful guilds like the mercers and goldsmiths controlled commerce, apprenticeships, and even aspects of governance. London was becoming a city of merchants as much as monarchs. By 1600, its population topped 200,000, the largest in Western Europe. Art and theater flourished. Shakespeare's Globe Theatre opened in 1599, drawing crowds from all walks of life to watch stories of ambition, love, and betrayal. But growth brought problems. Overcrowding, poverty, and disease spread through cramped streets. The Thames, once vital for trade, now carried the city's waste. Still, beneath the grime and grandeur, a new London was taking shape, a city on the cusp of the modern world. Chapter 6: Fire and Rebirth. The 1600s began with hope. James I united England and Scotland, and London thrived with trade and innovation. But the century soon turned turbulent. In 1665, the Great Plague struck, killing around 100,000 people. Homes were boarded up, streets emptied, and death carts roamed at night. The city was once again brought to its knees. Then came the fire. On September 2nd, 1666, a spark in a Pudding Lane bakery ignited a catastrophe. Fueled by wooden buildings and high winds, the Great Fire raged for 4 days, destroying over 13,000 homes and much of the medieval city. Though few lives were officially lost, the devastation was immense. Yet from the ruins, London rebuilt. Architect Sir Christopher Wren reimagined the city, designing over 50 churches, including the magnificent St. Paul's Cathedral. Its towering dome became a lasting symbol of resilience. London had been ravaged, but it rose again, stronger and determined to endure.
Chapter 7. Empire's Capital. By the 1700s, London was no longer just a city. It was the beating heart of a rising empire. As Britain expanded across the Americas, Africa, and India, London became the command center. Ships poured into its docks carrying tea, sugar, spices, and ivory, fueling both domestic luxury and global commerce. This century also laid the foundations of modern capitalism. The Bank of England, founded in 1694, financed wars and stabilized currency. Institutions like Lloyd's of London followed, ensuring risky voyages and solidifying London's place as a global financial capital. It was also an age of ideas. Coffeehouses buzzed with debate, sparking newspapers, businesses, and revolutions. These were more than cafes. They were engines of change. But behind the wealth lay darker truths. Much of London's prosperity was built on slavery. Human lives were bought, sold, and exploited to drive imperial profits. While the elite lived in comfort, the poor crowded into filthy slums. Children worked long hours in factories, and disease haunted the city's poorest neighborhoods. Still, ambition drove London forward. It was becoming something new, a global industrial powerhouse, setting the stage for the modern world. Chapter 8. The Industrial Inferno. The 19th century didn't just grow London, it reshaped it completely. As the Industrial Revolution roared to life, the city became a relentless machine of coal, iron, and labor. Factories thundered, chimneys smoked, and migrants flooded in. By 1850, London was the largest city in the world, home to over 2.5 million people. But behind the progress was misery. The poor lived in squalid slums, with no clean water and sewage in the streets. Cholera outbreaks were rampant. In 1858, the River Thames reeked so badly it shut down Parliament, an episode known as the Great Stink. Engineer Joseph Bazalgette's underground sewer system soon followed, saving lives and transforming public health. It was one of Victorian London's greatest and quietest triumphs. London in this era was a city of extremes. Lavish estates stood just miles from factories filled with child laborers and chimney sweeps. Writers like Charles Dickens exposed the city's harsh truths, giving voice to those forgotten by progress. Meanwhile, Queen Victoria's reign expanded the British Empire to rule a quarter of the globe. Grand structures like the Houses of Parliament and Tower Bridge gave London its iconic look. But beneath the surface, unrest simmered. Radicals, socialists, and exiles like Karl Marx dreamed of revolution from within London's streets and coffee houses. By century's end, London was the world's largest, richest, and most divided city, a symbol of empire and inequality alike. Chapter 9. World at War. At the dawn of the 20th century, London sat atop the world, an imperial capital at its peak. But darker days lay ahead. World War I broke out in 1914. Though far from the front lines, London felt the war's weight. Zeppelins dropped bombs overhead, and daily life was reshaped by rations, grief, and mass enlistment. Over 700,000 Britons were lost, many from London's own neighborhoods. The post-war world brought no peace. The British Empire began to unravel, with uprisings in Ireland, India, and beyond. At home, the 1920s saw rising unemployment, strikes, and unrest. Then came World War II and the Blitz. Starting in 1940, Nazi bombs fell nightly for nearly 2 months. Streets turned to rubble, families fled to underground shelters, and over 30,000 Londoners died. Yet through it all, the city endured. Winston Churchill's voice became London's own, resolute and unbreakable. "We shall never surrender." And London didn't. When victory came in 1945, the city was scarred, but standing. Once again, it would rise from the ruins.
Chapter 10: The Birth of Multicultural London.
After World War II, London was shattered. Over 1 million buildings lay in ruins, and the city needed rebuilding, physically and spiritually. In 1948, the Empire Windrush arrived with Caribbean migrants ready to help rebuild. Despite facing racism and hardship, they stayed and helped shape a new London. Over time, more arrived from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa, and elsewhere. Each group brought their own culture, faith, and flavor, turning neighborhoods like Brixton and Southall into mosaics of the world. It wasn't always peaceful. Tensions led to riots, and discrimination persisted, but so did determination. By the end of the 20th century, London had become more than just Britain's capital. It was one of the world's most multicultural cities.
Chapter 11: The Swinging 60s and Cultural Explosion. The 1960s sparked a cultural revolution, and London was its beating heart. This was the era of the Beatles, Bowie, and the Rolling Stones. On Carnaby Street, fashion exploded with color and rebellion. Youth threw off old traditions, embracing miniskirts, leather, and loud music. Clubs pulsed with energy, and everything, from politics to pop culture, was up for reinvention. London became a global symbol of freedom, creativity, and change. In film, the British New Wave brought raw realism. Writers like Ian Fleming redefined thrillers, while radical ideas took root in politics and art. Even under Cold War shadows, London dreamed big. The 60s didn't last, but their spirit lives on. London had proven itself a city where the future was always being written. Chapter 12: Thatcher's London and the Rise of Finance. In the 1980s, London was in crisis. Factories closed, jobs disappeared, and the economy stalled. Then came Margaret Thatcher, Britain's first female prime minister, with bold and divisive reforms. She crushed unions, privatized industries, and deregulated finance. The 1986 Big Bang turned London into a global financial powerhouse. Glass towers rose in Canary Wharf, and money flooded in. But the wealth wasn't shared equally. Bankers thrived while working-class neighborhoods faced poverty and decay. London's skyline soared, but so did inequality. Still, the city's global status surged. It drew billionaires, artists, students, and startups, cementing its role as a 21st century capital of influence. Chapter 13: Millennium City, Modern London emerges. As the 2000s began, London embraced reinvention. The London Eye turned its first circle. The Tate Modern breathed new life into a power station. The Shard and the Gherkin reshaped the skyline. In 2012, London hosted the Olympics. Bold, diverse, and unforgettable. But progress came with pain. The July 7th bombings in 2005 stunned the world, igniting fierce debates on identity and extremism. Then came the 2008 financial crash, the Grenfell tragedy, and a worsening housing crisis. As prices soared, longtime residents were pushed out by gentrification. And in 2016, Brexit fractured the nation. London voted to remain, revealing a city at odds with the country around it, caught between its global future and uncertain past. Chapter 14: London Today, a City of Paradox. London today is a city of striking contrasts, where ancient castles meet glass skyscrapers and tech hubs sit beside centuries-old markets. Over 300 languages are spoken. Nearly half its residents come from abroad. It's both proudly British and globally diverse. A leader in finance, fashion, politics, and art, London shapes the world and is shaped by it. From Westminster to Brixton, it pulses with ambition and identity. Through every trial, London adapts. Its skyline changes, but its spirit never fades. To know London is to pursue a moving target, always shifting, never still. It isn't one city, but many. Roman camp, Saxon refuge, Norman citadel, Tudor court, Victorian giant, postmodern maze, immigrant haven, and global hub. London is a living story, one without a final chapter. A place that belongs to yesterday, thrives in today, and leans into tomorrow. So next time you walk its streets, pause and listen. Beneath the roar of the underground, beyond the black cabs and red buses, if you listen closely, you'll hear 2,000 years echoing, telling the tale of a city forever in the making.